This is Sam hitting some of the cleanest aces in Valorant. However, if we slow down his very last frag of this ace, we can see him use this aiming technique that all low elo players need to learn in order to climb. This technique is called strafe adjusting. Now in this video, we're going to be explaining how using this aim trick will help you double the amount of duels that you win. Before we get ahead of ourselves, what exactly is strafe adjusting? Strafe adjustment is an aiming technique where whenever you need to flick or micro adjust your crosshair, instead of just standing still and then moving your mouse to flick onto the target, you replace it with overflicking past the target, and during this, you begin to strafe in the opposite direction of your flick so that your movement is what moves your crosshair onto the enemy rather than your mouse. The key aspect here is that you are beginning your initial strafe at the same moment you start your flick. Now also, the amount of overflick directly correlates to how long your strafes will need to be so that your crosshair lands back on the target. Now because of this, pay attention to how far or short your overflick is so you're aware of how long your strafe needs to be. You can even apply this concept to underflicking and then using the opposite strafe key to readjust your crosshair onto the target. Basically, strafe adjustment is an aiming technique that combines your movement and mouse control so that they can work simultaneously to help you land a headshot. Let's break down the practice drills you'll need so that you can master the strafe adjustment technique. The fundamental firing technique that strafe adjustment uses is bursting, so we must learn how to fire accurate burst while incorporating movement. Before you start any of these exercises, you must go to your settings and under the Video and Stats tab, scroll all the way down until you see Shooting Error. Turn this option to Graph Only. You should now see a graph on the right side of the screen that shows bars whenever you fire your weapon. Essentially, the blue bar means that you were still moving during those shots, whereas the orange bar means you were standing still. While doing these practice drills, always ensure that this graph shows no blue bars so you're confident that every shot is completely accurate. Now, a simple method to working on your 2-bullet burst is by heading into the range, picking Sage, and then heading into the middle of the range itself. Then, place a vertical wall right in front of yourself. Take a small step back from the wall. Now, practice strafing left to right while shooting 2-bullet bursts on the left and right side of the ice wall. Make sure that every strafe is long enough to clear the wall so that you aren't shooting bullets into the ice wall. And make sure that your strafes aren't too long so that you aren't overshooting your positioning. Each strafe should be just long enough to clear the width of the ice wall and shoot 2-bullet bursts around it. We can use the shoot error graph to verify if our bursts are accurate. If you're really struggling to do this exercise, you can try out this easier drill so that you can first build the muscle memory of strafe shooting at a more comfortable pace before having to do it at the pace that the Sage Wall drill requires. Head into the range and face the back wall. Fire a bullet in line with the right side of this window here. Now, while aiming at this bullet hole, strafe to the left until your crosshair is about to hit the wooden column. Then stop and shoot 2 bullets. Repeat this process by strafing to the right and stopping whenever your crosshair is about to reach the right side of the window. Again, try your best to stop and then shoot a 2-bullet burst. Your mouse hand will not move at all during this exercise. This is strictly to practice your ability to strafe, stop, and then fire a burst all in one motion so that you can comfortably sync up your movement and bursts. Keep repeating until you feel comfortable with this pacing. Now, when this becomes too easy, increase the difficulty by shortening the strafe distances in half. Whenever this drill becomes too easy, go back to the Sage Wall burst drill and give it a shot. You can always come back to this video to see how you're supposed to do these exercises if you aren't sure about it. Remember, strafe adjusting is just one piece of the puzzle though when it comes to aiming. It's important that you really master all of the fundamentals if you really want to climb in Valorant, and on your own, that could take quite some time. Now, luckily with our Aim God course over at SkillCapped, we'll get you caught up real quick so that you can start impressing your friends in no time. We're going to teach you everything you need to know to become an aiming god in Valorant so that you can skip the part where you look like, this, and get to the part where you look like this. Remember, SkillCapped is backed by a rank improvement guarantee so that if you don't improve while actively using our service, you're going to get your money back and there's no questions asked. Now, we do this because our service works, and if it doesn't work, you just shouldn't pay for it. So if you're really looking to climb in Valorant, be sure to check out SkillCapped, and we're going to see you there. Okay, now that we've gotten a grasp over bursting though, let's move on to the over-aim drills. Head into the range, press F3, set the speed to easy, and switch to the sheriff. Then start the test from the middle with your crosshair centered. What you'll want to do from here is that whenever a bot appears, you want to overflick your crosshair so that it's way further than where the actual target is, and at the same time, you'll start strafing into the direction that's opposite of your overflick so that you start to readjust your overflicked crosshair back onto the target by using your movement. Then, once your crosshair has landed on the target from your strafe, you stop and shoot only a single bullet. Your goal is to reach 20 out of 30 bots on easy before moving on to the medium version of this drill. Once you're doing this drill on medium, also aim for at least 20 out of 30 bots. Trying to do this all at once is going to be difficult at first. There's a lot of moving parts when it comes to the execution of strafe adjusting, so just make sure to break it down to whatever aspect you're having trouble with. Here's a couple common mistakes that you may make during this drill, and here's how to fix them too. First, not strafing at the same time as you begin your flick. Now, many of you are going to do something similar to this, where you'll overflick first, then begin your strafe once your flick is already completed. Both of these steps should be done at the exact same time rather than one after another. This is because you aren't starting the strafe earlier. A very basic drill to help with fixing this is by starting the easy level test, but this time, solely focus on pressing the correct strafe key as fast as possible based on where the enemy bot spawns. If the enemy spawns on the right side of your centered crosshair, strafe left, and if the enemy spawns on the left side, strafe right. This helps with building muscle memory in your left hand so that you can start your strafe early and in the right direction in relation to your overflick. Another common mistake is not overflicking far enough. A lot of you will do this drill incorrectly by very tiny overflicks, which limits the length of your strafes. Ensure that you're flicking a substantial amount away from your target so that you can get enough space for longer strafes. Long strafes are the key to maximizing your dodging capability when compared to very tiny strafes where the enemy isn't forced to readjust their crosshair as much. After you've done your practice drills, make sure to spend some time playing deathmatch where you solely focus on the mechanics you had just practiced earlier with these various drills. For every fight you take, strictly practice your 2-bullet burst while incorporating movement into your dodging and aiming. Focus on your movement to dodge the enemy shots and then counterattack with a burst of your own. These counterattack bursts ideally should be aimed by using mostly your movement. Now repeat this process of practicing in the range, then in deathmatch every day, and you'll start winning your duels effortlessly. The strafe adjustment technique has a long list of strengths as to why it's so key for winning more duels. First, strafe adjusting teaches you the fundamentals of using your own movement to move your crosshair for better crosshair placement. This skill set is a necessary component to having strong peaks. In our 4 levels of peaking video, we go over the concept of a standard peak, which consists of the player pre-aiming the angle they wish to clear, then strafing out left or right to peek into that angle and stopping as soon as they reach their point of contact. This pre-aim into strafe section of the standard peak is what we're focusing on because this is the exact same motions that one would go through when using the strafe adjust technique. First, you're overflicking so that your crosshair is offset from the desired target. It's just that when peeking, you're doing this through a wall instead of overflicking past a target's head. Then, strafing left or right to move your crosshair back onto the target and peek at the same time. This sequence of actions is much quicker when using it for overflicks rather than the standard peaks, but it should be quite obvious the similarities between these two situations here. Second, strafe adjusting teaches you the value of using your movement to win duels rather than your raw mouse control. Now, what we mean by this is that you can win many more duels against your opponents by focusing your efforts on quick movement to make your enemy's initial shot much harder to hit. A big misconception that many players make is that they think duels are just competitions to see who can move and click their mouse faster. Instead, look at duels like you're playing a 1v1 in dodgeball. You do have the option to just whip a ball instantly at your opponent, but as the name of this game implies, there's also a heavy emphasis on dodging as well. Once your opponent has missed their initial shot, much like how they would miss their ball in a game of dodgeball, you then can easily counterattack since they're still in the process of recovering from missing their first shot. To give an example, here's a clip from my own game. My team is executing onto C-Site on Haven, and we find 2 quick frags onto the enemy KO and Omen. I had noticed that my chamber had seen someone in garage that likely pushed into my smoke. With this in mind, I used the strafe adjustment technique towards garage in preparation that the enemy may peek out of my smoke. Now, unfortunately, I did miss the shot onto the jet. However, I was correct in my decision and was able to use my early movement to dodge Jet's bullets and escape a potential death. As you'll start to see, the value of dodging your opponent's first bullet is as valuable as hitting your own. Strafe adjusting, once learned, gives us the option to make our enemy shots much harder and also make our own shots easier by aiming with our movement, effectively killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Third, strafe adjusting incentivizes you to use bursting rather than spraying, which is a generally more consistent shooting style to use for most of your duels. Our very first shot is going to be the most accurate shot that we can get. Now, with this in mind, we must place a lot of value into not wasting our very first shot if possible, since it's our best chance at hitting a headshot. However, as soon as we fire our first shot, we now have to rely on shots affected by recoil to win the fight if we choose to continue to spray. But we can actually use the principles of the strafe adjust technique to get around this predicament by stopping our burst at the second bullet and starting another strafe so that we can 1. Strafe so that we can dodge the enemy's bullets while our gun's recoil resets for another accurate first shot, and number 2, use our movement to help us readjust our crosshair onto the target for our next burst fire. This strafe had won the duel for me because it had moved my crosshair perfectly in sync with the enemy Brimstone, so I had very little readjustment needed to hit my target. Also, you can see that Brimstone's bullets had missed me because he was focusing his aim toward where I was rather than where I was moving to. This is a direct result of using movement to dodge bullets and then counterattack. To explain these concepts further, let's take a look at the clip of one of my duels. It's a 3v2 situation, and the enemy Cypher just used his ultimate, so there's a high chance that the enemies will try to look for a fight with this information. As soon as the second Cypher ult goes off, the enemy Brimstone peeks at Raze from garage window. I peek out, but due to my pretty poor crosshair placement, I missed the initial shot. But after recognizing that my burst didn't hit, I strafed to the left to let the recoil reset and to dodge any oncoming bullets. Alright though guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little bit more about SkillCapped. So we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and we think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's kind of like a gym membership guaranteeing you that you're gonna get ripped. Your local gym would probably go bust if they offered you that. But not us, because we've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium Valorant guides on the internet. We add new courses every month with over 1,000 guides curated into over 50 courses. No one can compare. We also have a direct line of communication with subscribers in our Discord so that you can get connected immediately to some of the best players in the game who will respond to every question you ask. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month if you're serious about improving your game. So that's going to be all for this one today, everyone. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.